Starting off in Airsoft can be very difficult, especially when you only have $200 or even less to throw around for your first Airsoft gun. So you go ahead and head on over to Amazon and add a few things to your cart like, no, stop, you may not know it yet, but you're adding garbage to your cart. I've done this myself when I first started off by sinking over $400 on a rifle that ultimately blew up in my face, and even more on parts and gear that I never used or ever even needed. So today I thought I'd take the time to put together a list of 20 different airsoft guns for under $200 for all you newbies out there, or future players that would love to join our hobby. This is going to be a long video, but I'm sure a lot of you guys can benefit from something like this, and I'm sure that a lot of my longtime viewers who have been playing Airsoft for years now can chime in with the comments down below to offer even more options. So if you're a soon-to-be Airsofter, or you're just curious about what kind of selection you have for such a small budget, then here we go. Of course, my biggest tip for beginners is to invest in a really good pair of eye protection. A subpar choice will drastically damage your experience in your first games. I hear my goggles keep fogging up, and I can't see anything from so many new players, and I can understand this. I spent about $100 on these Revision Desert Locust goggles years ago, and even though I want to upgrade them again soon, I rarely have fogging issues with them. So that's a major tip I wanted to throw in there. Just like how biting the bullet and going with an M4 or M16 platform for your first gun is another pivotal tip. The M4 is the most popular platform by far, and I mean by far. Watch any of my gameplays and you'll understand what I mean by that. It's the most customizable platform with a pan-GSC worth of upgrade parts, and you can just about turn any standard M4 rifle into any of its variants as long as you have the parts and know-how. So for the first picks, I'm starting off with a couple JGs like their M16A4 and their S system. I'll talk about other guns besides the M4 in this list, so don't get your AK-loving hands sweaty. I've got some picks for you and for the more unique-minded players out there watching. Moving on, a lot of big manufacturers have made full-stock M16s like Echo 1, G&G, GMP, Tokyo Marui, and so on, but only JG has made so many different variants of the M16 at sub $200 prices. I know players that still use their old polymer body JGs even after all the years of play, like the players you see on your screen now. A lot of these M16A1s are JGs. Their gearboxes are easy to upgrade, you get a lot of space in the stock for whatever battery you want to use, and if you get one with the wrist system, then you'll have your gateway into making your rifle your own. The S system expands on this idea with the shorter length, however the reputation greatly jumps for this rifle. The S system has been a very popular first-time rifle for a lot of players since their release around early 2009. With the Delta models, you'll get the same polymer body with the 6-position retractable stock and rails up top and up front for about $150. And if you notice, they kind of look a lot like the M4A1 from Modern Warfare 2, so if that interests you, then you might appreciate the S system just a little bit more. Of course, there's more from JG or Jing Gong to look at, like this basic SOP mod M4, so go ahead and type in JG M4 into a few search bars and look up a few reviews. You'll find hundreds of them. But in my opinion, I say check out these two offerings. They're cheap, easy to work on, reliable for the money, and they carry along a great reputation as great beginner guns. And then there's the G&G Firehawk that I have to mention. As I'll touch on here, I'll say that I'm a bit of a G&G fanboy. I have two of their M14s and a rare FNC from them, and they're pretty nice to me as a company whenever I do work with them. But I won't let that blind me from my personal opinions of their guns. However, in the case I'm praising this gun, the Firehawk. For $190 or $10 under our limit, the Firehawk is really small, making this a viable CQB choice, and with its compactness, it's also light. The body and rail is polymer, aiding to the low weight, but the flash hider at the barrel's end is what makes this compact M4 stand out. It's loud. It's a borderline amplifier. If you just feel at home with a smaller gun, or you plan on staying on the move on the field or in the CQB arena, then I highly recommend you look into the Firehawk. I still want one myself, actually.
Pretty awesome in my opinion for a gun right out of the box, especially at around $170. So make sure to look out for the G&G Firehawk on AirsoftGI.com.
Next, I have a few AKs on the list. Just like in the real world, the AK platform is quite abundant in Airsoft. It's just under the M4 for the amount of parts and upgrades available, but surprisingly enough, you can get quite a lot of them for under $200. Even the high-end models are still pretty cheap in comparison to what some people pay for a good M4. What I recommend to a lot of people when they're looking for AKs is SEMA. If you want an AK-74U, then they've got them. How about some real wood on your AK-74? Well, they've got those too. And if you want rails on an AK, then they've got those. And even if you want a PP19 or even an RPK, then SEMA has your back as long as you have the money. I've used them, owned them, I've sold them. They just simply work like they should. I reviewed a CMO47D a long while ago, which was essentially an AK-105 with a skeleton sight folder stock, but either of these should do you well. The bodies are made from some alright metal, which is pretty good for the price you pay, and battery storage is great as long as you have a stick-type battery like these. I've even owned an AK-74 model that I got for about $180, and it did pretty well until I sold it off to get something new. The wood on it wasn't something you'd make a dinner table out of, and admittingly some of the other SEMA AK's furniture looks pretty bad with the orange cheap wood they sometimes use. I still recommend these to people because they're inexpensive, easy to work on for techs, you get a lot of variety, and you get a metal body right out of the box. Even if you want something like the old SEMA AKS-74U or CMO35, you get the option of real or fake wood, railed handguards, and even adjustable stocks. Trust me when I say it, you'll do fine with a good SEMA when you spend about $100 to $200, and if you need to, someone should buy it from you if you don't want it anymore. Then later, if you get some more money together, you might be able to get that E&L AK that you like so much. Pistols and shotguns. I remember that was all I saw at Walmart when I would go see what airsoft guns they had when I was way younger. And maybe you have one of those classic clear body magazine fed shotguns. Pistols and shotguns are staple guns for CQB and for some field situations, but when it really comes down to it, they're probably the easiest guns to have fun with. Some people even go into games with just a pistol, and they do really well that way. And something about just having to aggressively pump a shotgun in the heat of a firefight is pretty cool. So that's why I would recommend you guys to check out the UTG/SEMA/AGM shotguns and the Elite Force Hater Revolver if you're on a budget. Both of these can be found for under $100, so you'll have another $100 left for family stuff. Honestly though, I'd recommend that you get a little bit of gear like good eye protection and a mesh mask with that extra cash you have. Or you could just go blow it on building battle bots, I don't care. The UTG shotguns are so easy to come by and use that I normally see them all over the place when I go to play and film. They're everywhere, even after they break down, and it seems that a few companies like to rebrand them because of how easy they are to produce. Hence the reason why I said UTG/SEMA/AGM. All these variants are the same pump action spring shotgun, so I've got to give it to UTG for that. I like seeing variety, and thank goodness the world has collectively agreed to use the same type of shells to load these types of shotguns, because I'd hate to have to buy specific shells for every different shotgun I have. These shotguns will load 3 BBs in 3 separate barrels, meaning it's a tri-shot shotgun, and the shells normally hold about 30 BBs each, so as long as you get a set of shells, you should be fine for a quick skirmish game. But be aware these are all polymer plastic made shotguns. They're cheap shotguns for a reason. The Hater Revolver is made from the same construction, but even though it's roughly priced the same, the Hater is the clear winner here. The build construction is much better than the UTG shotguns, and I think you get more out of it as well. The Hater is a CO2 powered 10-shot revolver that can be picked up for $60. I've even reviewed one, and I even gave one away. I thought honestly when I first got one for review that it was going to be pretty bad for the price that you pay, but no, that wasn't the case at all. The range is pretty limited to about 100 feet, but in CQB or in any other close quarter scenario, you'll be fine. Elite Force even includes 4 extra moon clips in the box, and extras are easy to find. In a list of 20 different budget airsoft guns, I say really look up a review or two over the Hater if you really want to get a cheap but well put together sidearm. That is if you don't really want a blowback pistol right away. I say stick to AEGs and other simple guns when you first start off, since the maintenance and cost of running anything blowback can get a little bit out of hand. Like I said earlier, I spent $400 on a WE M14 thinking it would be a great first gun. Yeah, terrible idea. But if you really want to go for a blowback pistol, then I better recommend 2 that will last you. So this is the KWC M1911/Elite Force M1911 TAC, and this is the ASG CZ P09. I've used both of these for a long while now, and despite being told that I shouldn't ever recommend the KWC 1911 to anybody, they've never given me any of the problems that other people tell me they would. The KWC 1911 is a CO2 powered pistol that can be had in a whole bunch of colors and a couple layouts. I personally like the Colt Railgun the most for its looks, but the Elite Force TAC is by far the most sold model. If you want to add a suppressor to it, then you can with the 14mm counterclockwise threads at the end of the barrel, or if you have a flashlight, then you can add that on as well. Parts kits are even available just in case if you need them, and why not get an extended magazine when you get the chance? Over the years, the KWC 1911 is becoming one of the universal pistols that everyone uses. And if you take a look at the military simulation players, you'll see these in so many different holsters. Then at the end of the segment, we have my personal sidearm, the ASG P09. You can get them with CO2 magazines or you can get them with green gas magazines. And if you want a threaded tip, then you can have it, or if you don't, then you don't need it. I've always liked this design more than the 1911 for the bigger controls that help me hit them easier, and for the stronger recoil that the CO2 magazines bring on. The P09 is not as supported as the KWC 1911, and I know that, and I don't get the choices for magazine variants besides how they're powered, and I can't just go buy a kit to rebuild my entire pistol if something ever breaks inside of it. However, if you ever get the chance to feel one of these in a shop or from a friend, then you'll understand why I love this pistol over a lot of the other stuff I've reviewed and tested. Moving on to the more unique guns for the beginners, I have to start with the Umarex and Elite Force Competition TAR-21 Tavor. What's great about the Tavor is although it looks radically different from the M4s we went over earlier, it still uses the same magazines. So if you're ever in a pinch in any game, any of your team members should have an extra magazine for you to borrow. And since it's what's known as a bullpup rifle, just like the AUG, the FAMAS, and the F2000, the barrel is actually as long as the JGS system we saw earlier, while the overall length of the gun is reduced. The Cybergun FAMAS is the same way, but if you ever want that, then you'll have to stick with the proprietary FAMAS magazines. I see both of these guns with newbies now and again, and I understand that. They're different, they're unique in a game flooded with one type of gun, and both of these are popular in video games. God, did I hate getting killed by the FAMAS over and over in Black Ops. And they can be had for under $200, so that's within our budget. In my honest opinion, I'd say go for the Tavor for the magazine compatibility, but if you want to save a few bucks, then there's no shame in ordering a Cybergun FAMAS. It's not that bad for a budget gun. Submachine guns can also be unique to see now and again, and that's why I would suggest the Elite Force Competition MP5s and the SEMA Thompsons. At this rate, I should just put in my contract for sponsorship by Elite Force and SEMA, but this list would just be full of guns I've never heard of if I didn't list a few options from both of these companies. Like the M4 and the AKs, the MP5 is heavily supported in the builders community, so parts are plentiful, including magazines. With the competition models, you're looking at polymer bodies with some bare bones basics, so you won't be getting a MOSFET system to include a 3-round burst function, but that's not really a necessity when you're first starting off. This goes for the SEMA Thompsons as well, besides for the metal bodies they come with. This is probably the most popular World War II gun out there of all of them, and SEMA has been producing these for probably over a decade at this point. I want one myself in the M1A1 layout as long as I can get a couple drum mags and a box of mid-cap stick magazines, and I'm sure a few of you would as well. The PPSH and ICS grease gun are other options you could look at, but those go a bit over our budget. So if you've got $200 and you've got a bit of a history buff inside you, then the SEMA Thompson might be a good fit for you. Just remember that the fake wood models are the easier ones to find for about $140 to $180. Alright, next up is sniper rifles and backups for them. That's easy enough to talk about because if I ever had a sniper rifle and I only had $200, then I'd try to find myself a JG Bar 10. The Bar 10 is just JG's remake of the legendary Tokamuri VSR 10 for a lot less, and if you're smart, you can get one with a scope included. The Bar 10 is a spring-powered bolt-action sniper rifle, so you won't need any batteries or gas, just some heavyweight BBs like .28s or .32 grams, and some patience, of course. I don't suggest that you stay so far back that you never see a single enemy player when sniping, as you're pretty ineffective to your whole team. But if you stay out of sight while being rather close to the action, then you'll do better. Just don't be the kid that goes sniping with a bright blue shirt on or anything like that. The SEMA M24 is pretty alright too, as it fits the same building platform as the Bar 10, but you won't be getting a scope from the box like the JG. It's your choice if you want to go this route as a newbie, but you'll be at a disadvantage right away as most of your players will be using AEGs. I don't care how many Novrich videos you've watched, you're not going to be that good on your first day out. If anything, you could pack a good pistol or an Ares Amoeba pistol if you have the cash to order one. I've always liked these for how small and lightweight they are due to their high density polymer bodies. Just put one of these on a sling, and if you ever need to protect yourself from a couple enemies that are coming too close to you, just switch from your bolt action sniper rifle to something like this, and you'll get yourself out of that situation. An MP5 would be able to do this too, but the micro switch triggers and range on the Ares Amoebas are just too good for me to ignore. You could also go with the gas shotgun route if you really want to mix things up, since the jack precision scatter guns are within the budget, but I'd greatly recommend that you hold on to all the packaging if you order one of these, since the first batch of scatter guns were notorious for leaks. Jag will take care of any of these problems if you ever have them, which is a good thing, but you'll be left without a gun until it's fixed, so that can ruin everything. I like the scattergun shotguns because they are a gas shotgun that can get you about 100 shots per fill, and they use the same shells, and you do get a few different variants. But I still say stick with the smaller PDW style M4s like the Amoeba or even a Lancer Tactical Cobra if you can find one. Both of those are good options. Now to finish up this video, I have two more guns to recommend, and they're both M4s. I know there's a lot of other good stuff out there from JG, Echo 1, SEMA, and a few others out there, but I want to stick with guns that I personally have experience with, as I wouldn't want to get recommendations for things from someone who's never used that thing. So for number 2, I have to say the Classic Army EC2. This list was never in any order from the worst to the best, but the EC2 is pretty high up there for guns I'd recommend for beginners due to all the stuff you get with them. Besides a pair of eye protection and a bottle of BBs, the EC2 just gives you everything to go out and play right away. The gun itself gave me a respectable range and accuracy at 150 feet, and the build construction was adequate for $150. I can even see a field using a bunch of EC2s as rentals. Each box comes with a battery and charger, a foregrip, and rail covers, so those are all good pros to list. If you're a field owner, I'd say just get a bunch of these, and of course get yourself as many combat machines as you can from G&G. Of course I had to add the old G&G combat machines on here as number 1. These things just don't die or go away. You can be a die-hard long-time player and still use a combat machine, and maybe you're one of those players. When the world is a desolate wasteland of magma, cockroaches, and still somehow working PlayStation 2 consoles, the G&G combat machine will still be there. The Gen 1 CM16s are highly recommended as a beginner gun for you as a player or for any person looking to understand the fundamentals of teching on guns. You can either be bare bones with your rifle or get some tasteful rails and colors going on. It's your choice. The combat machine line was so successful for G&G that they even released a Generation 2 with electronic trigger units, MOSFETs, and metal M-LOK rails. A bit out of our budget, I know, but they're still that good. If you're going to spend a little bit more on your first gun, then you can't go wrong with a combat machine. And it doesn't matter if you pick the Gen 1s or Gen 2s, they're still good. If entire fields and arenas use them as their rentals for other sometimes fumbling newbies, even with their polymer bodies, then it'll be okay for you to use as well. Out of everything we just went over, the top 5 I'd recommend for you as a soon-to-be player with only $200 in your wallet is first the CM16 G&G combat machines for their variety, build construction, and reliability. Any of the SEMA AKs with metal bodies for the same exact reasons would be number 2. Then a KWC 1911 like the Colt Railgun or the Elite Force TAC for the support they have in the parts department, upgrades, and their multiple layouts. Next, I'd say take a look at the Elite Force Hater Revolver for an even cheaper sidearm for CQB games, since you should be able to get out about 100 shots with one CO2 cartridge. Then if you really want to get into sniping, go for a JG Bar 10 as it's one of the easiest to build rifles. They have the most support out of any other sniping platform, so that's my determining factor. Or you could go with the S system by JG if sniping isn't your thing. You may not be able to get anything like this or like this when you first join up in the hobby, but hopefully I just helped you make a decision for what will be your first legit airsoft gun. Remember what I said about getting good eye protection though, and don't just watch this video, go and watch a few others to get even more insight. I'm sure that a few of my friends here on YouTube will be glad to share their thoughts with you. Or if you'd like to, then just ask me whatever questions you've got in your mind, and I'll try to do my best to get to all of them. I hope you enjoyed my video over 20 beginner airsoft guns for under $200. Please spank a like down below if you did like this video, as it greatly helps me out now to put together more awesome content, or subscribe for more USAirsoft every week. I'd like to thank you guys for all the support, all the comments, all the likes, all the new subscriptions. But until the next video drops from the city of San Antonio, this has been Scott Holmbeck, and I will be sure to see you all next time. Moving on, a lot of big manufacturers have made full socks.